Hey guys, hope you all have been well. Welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to be doing a part 2, the final video of my bronzer face swatches. Unplanned, but it just so happens that the only other products I have are my 2 Nars bronzers and my 4 MAC bronzers / contour products. So if you're interested in this final video, I hope you decide to stay tuned. We're gonna get straight into it. I will be using the same brushes from my last videos, so I have the BK Beauty 104, which is shaped like this, and then the MAC 135, which is shaped like this. Starting off with the Nars products, I'm going to begin with one of my favorites, which is Laguna bronzer. There's this very subtle golden sheen that runs through the product, but as far as the shade of the actual powder, it's very traditional bronzer shade, and I would say up to about an NC 37, maybe an NC 40, this might look like a very subtle bronzer. I've actually panned one of this before and it started to crumble, as well as the packaging being absolutely disgusting. So I repurchased another one and I still love it just as much. I've got a really good dent in this one as well, and I hope you're able to see that really subtle golden glow that this gives. It's not a flat matte shade. So here's the final look of Laguna bronzer. And this is what it looks like head on. The deeper companion for Laguna is this one here in Casino. You can see that it is quite significantly darker than Laguna is. And this one too has it's this very subtle glow, like really tiny specks just dusted throughout, but not like the Colourpop eyeshadows with the specks of glitter. Much finer, and it appears more glowy on the skin as opposed to those eyeshadows that just kind of fall off your eyes. Now I'm going very light-handed with this because it's rather dark, but you know what, maybe for just content purposes I should go a little bit darker. Yeah, that's really dark. And maybe just with the front view you can already tell that this is a much more red undertone, whereas this is a bit more golden. Kind of just looks like blush on me, doesn't it? But anyways, here's the final look of Nars's Casino bronzer. And here's what it looks like face on. And just so we're able to compare the shades, here we have Laguna and here we have Casino. We're gonna move on to the MAC palette that I built. These are their Pro Sculpting pans. They're 1,000 times better than their compacts. So we're going to start off with the first two. This one here is Bone Beige, and it's kind of like a bronzer but leaning a bit more on that redder, warmer side. And then here we have a Sculpt, which is a neutral leaning cool tone soft contour shade, and I'm going to be showing you how I use it when I decide to. So we're going to start off with that first shade in Bone Beige. Why it's called Bone Beige, I don't know. You know what, now that I think about it, a lot of beige foundations, they tend to have a bit more red in them, so maybe it is fitting. You see how light that comes off on my complexion? This is like a foolproof bronzer for me, but it almost looks like blush at the same time. And all of these shades are matte, but this is definitely the questionable one of the bunch because I just see it as a blush. It looks like a blush on me. I feel like if I stick it next to Gingerly or Sincere, it's just gonna fit right in. So here's the final look of Bone Beige. Moving on to this side using Sculpt, I'm going to be using the BK Beauty for this because I use it more as a contour shade. I think the truest description for this shade is neutral, but if it had to lean a certain way, I definitely think it's more cool tone. So I just applied a little bit on my face first just to kind of brush it all over very lightly so that when I do the hollows of my cheekbones, it blends into something. See, it doesn't look gray on my skin, so there's definitely some color to it. And so after I'm done applying it like such, and again it is a lighter shade for me, I'm going to apply a bit just on the tip of the brush and just work on the backs of my cheekbones like that. And you can see the shade building up right there. And I think that's a good thing about using a brush like this. You can apply the bronzer by applying them on the sides and then just buffing heavily onto the skin and then using that really pointed tip to get into the hollows of the cheeks. I just think doing it this way is a bit more traditional in terms of like more editorial or professional looking makeup, because it's a bit more specific, you know, sort of applying a bit more of color all along the perimeters of the face and then being very specific in terms of where you want shadow to appear. So here's a final look of Sculpt. And this is what it looks like head on. So one more time, here we have Bone Beige, which is on this side, and then this second neutral contour shade here is on this side, and this is Sculpt. And our final two shades are going to be this one here, which happens to be my personal favorite out of the four. And this is in Shadester. It's a pretty traditional bronzer, leaning more golden. And down here we have a contour powder, and this is in the shade Shadowy. And in the pan, you can definitely see that it has a lot of gray in it. Although I like different types of bronzers with different undertones, I feel like the orangey golden bronzers are the ones that look best on my complexion. And this is just so easy to blend. You've seen with these MAC ones here. So easy to blend, has great pigmentation on it. It's just, I mean, it's just good, you know? So here is the final look of Shadester. So good. And here we have it head on. And finally we have Shadowy. I'm going to be honest with you, I can't even recall the last time I used this because it's so deep. And so I'm going to try and just do it in the hollows, because putting this as a bronzer makes no sense at all. This is a true cool tone product. You see, I don't know if you can tell, there's the line here already, and I tapped ever so slightly in this pan and it gets the job done. I just feel like, you know, I really got to be careful with it. But you can see that it really is creating that shadow, and you can actually see it face on because I'm looking at it in the mirror right here. This is where the product is, and I'm seeing that chiseling out on my cheeks. And so now I can go in with something like Shadester, and then I normally would do the opposite and do the bronzer first, but I wanted to show you the product on its own. So now I can blend that on top of it, and then I'll be able to have both the bronzer kind of giving me color back and then that shadow right in the hollows. And so right through this portion here, that is where you'll see the shadowy effect that this shadowy shade is giving us. And just so that I can even it out, taking again just a tiny dab of Shadowy in right out there. It's so quick. You see that? See how fast that was? So this side here is on top of the bronzer, and then this one here is Shadowy underneath the bronzer. And this is what it looks like head on. Final look at these bronzers one more time. We have Shadester, which is a bronzer, and then we have Shadowy, which is a contour shade. I know I keep saying bronzer, and I'm very aware that bronzer and contour are not the same thing, but why would I just do a separate contour video when I have like two things? You know what I mean? Let's just collectively decide that we all understand what we're talking about. I'm gonna add some blush right now, and then I'll be right back to finish up this video. All right, guys, that is it. That is the end of this bronzer. That's what it is. It's the bronzer face swatching. Thank you for joining me in this bronzer face swatching video, part 2, final one. I don't have a large collection, guys. Same thing with my highlighters. I'll be able to do it in 2 videos just because my cheeks get irritated, but I easily could have done it in 1 if I wasn't just so weak in the knees. I can hug knees. But if you're interested in the full makeup look here, all you have to do is check me out on Instagram. It's the first link in the description box down below. That is where I post all of my makeup looks along with all the products in the caption. Till the next video, I hope you all are doing well, taking great care of yourselves. I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.